Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're the show that takes stacks of sources on complex topics and, well, dives deep, pulling out the core ideas for you.
And today, we're tackling someone really fascinating, Pierre Teilhard de Chardin. He was a Jesuit priest, but also a paleontologist, a scientist digging for fossils.
Yeah, it's quite the combination, isn't it?
Yeah.
And his big idea, explored in his main work, The Phenomenon of Man, tries to bridge that gap. Science, cosmic evolution, consciousness, and even Christ.
It's a huge, ambitious vision. He saw the entire universe evolving towards this ultimate point of consciousness and unity. He called it the Omega point.
And somehow identified that with Christ. That's the paradox we want to explore. Can rigorous science and deep mysticism actually work together?
Exactly. So our mission today isn't to say Teilhard was right or wrong. It's really just to unpack his ideas using his book and some related sources we've looked at. We want to understand this grand attempt to synthesize, these seemingly separate worlds.
Right. We've done the reading, connected the dots, so you get the essence of this complex, sometimes controversial, but definitely profound vision. Think of it as your shortcut. Okay, let's get into it. Let's unpack this.
Do it.
So first off, it's crucial to remember Teilhard wasn't just sitting in an armchair theorizing. He was out there in the field, a paleontologist.
Absolutely. His ideas grew directly out of his scientific work, looking at the actual fossil record, the history of life on Earth. This wasn't abstract philosophy detached from reality. It was grounded in observation.
And he saw evolution not just as like random biological changes, but as something bigger, cosmic thing.
Yeah, a directional process. He saw patterns everywhere. He mentions things like the gyratory origin of the spiral nebulae, how particles gather in crystals or stalagmites, even how fibers form in a plant stalk.
Okay, so patterns of formation.
Right. He saw these stable geometric shapes, these arrangements, as proof of what he called kinematics, but not just things moving around passively.
What did he mean by kinematics then? More than just movement?
Yeah, it's more like an internal drive within matter itself, a tendency to organize, to complexify, to become something more. Like the universe isn't static, it's always striving towards greater organization.
An internal drive. Interesting.
And this led him to think about the early Earth. He imagined this sort of special envelope forming, a temperate zone of polymerization, he called it, where the within of the Earth was concentrating.
The within of the Earth. Okay, now we're getting into the deeper stuff. What's this within?
This is maybe his most crucial and radical concept. The within implies an inner dimension to all matter, an interiority. Even from the very beginning, it suggests kind of proto-consciousness.
Proto-consciousness. In, like, rocks, atoms. That's hard to wrap your head around.
It is. It's definitely not consciousness as we experience it. Think of it more like a fundamental property, like mass or charge, but an inner property. It's incredibly faint, almost non-existent in simple matter. But his point was, it has to be there from the start in some form. Consciousness couldn't just pop into existence out of nowhere when things got complex enough. It had to be a potentiality woven into the fabric of reality itself.
So the potential was always there,
Yeah.
just waiting for complexity to amplify it.
Precisely. As matter folds in on itself, becomes more organized, this within intensifies, becomes more apparent. It's a spectrum, not an on-off switch.
Right. And this is where his paleontology work comes back in. Yeah. He saw this playing out in the fossil record. This is where it gets really interesting for me, how he connects the digging to the philosophy.
Exactly. He wasn't just speculating. He looked at the actual progression of life forms.
Huh?
Take the theromorphs, for example.
Hormorphs, those are the mammal-like reptiles, right? Before the dinosaurs even.
That's them. The source notes, they might seem clumsy and deformed to us now, but back then, they were the creatures that occupied and possessed all land that was not covered by sea. They were dominant, and Teilhard observed their evolution. He saw them start as a rather monotonous group, but then evolve towards the types with greater agility and cranial construction. Their bodies became more efficient, their skulls more complex, hinting at better brains, better senses.
So a clear progression.
Yes, and he believed it was within this progressive line, this long dormant shoot, that mammals eventually arose. He saw this directed movement, this ascent towards greater complexity and presumably a more intensified within.
So the fossils weren't just random snapshots, they showed a trend.
A definite trend. His observations led him to see this undeniable global growth of the biosphere, not just diversification, but expansion and final complexity. Each layer building on the last, becoming more intricate. This empirical observation, this pattern, really underpins his core principle.
Which brings us to the law of complexity consciousness.
Exactly, the cornerstone of his whole system.
Okay, so lay it out for us. This law, it connects the physical complexity with that inner within, the consciousness.
Right. His central hypothesis is that this involution of complexity, matter folding in on itself, getting more organized, is experimentally bound up with a correlative increase in interiorization, that is to say, in the psyche or consciousness.
Involution of complexity. So
Yeah.
not just spreading out, but folding inward, becoming more intricate,
Yeah.
like origami.
That's a great analogy. Or think of how a brain folds to maximize surface area. It's matter becoming more densely organized, more interconnected internally. And Teilhard's big claim is wherever you see that happen, you also see a rise in the inner dimension, in consciousness.
And he called this experimentally incontestable. That sounds strong. What evidence did he point to? Not lab tests, presumably.
No, not lab tests in the modern sense. His experiment was the grand sweep of evolution itself, the observable evidence across billions of years. You look at the spectrum from incredibly simple life, like maybe single cells with just a nucleus responding basic ways, all the way up through increasingly complex organisms, developing nervous systems, brains, culminating in human self-awareness. He saw an undeniable correlation. More physical complexity equals more detectable aliveness or awareness.
So, like gravity, we see its effects consistently, even if we don't fully grasp the why. He saw this complexity consciousness link as a similar fundamental law.
Exactly. He argued it's a trend as universal as gravity or electromagnetism, maybe even more significant. It means consciousness isn't some fleek that happened late in the game on Earth. It's intrinsic, intensifying with complexity everywhere.
Wow. Okay, so for you listening, think about that. This reframes everything. Evolution isn't just about brute survival anymore. It's got this inner dimension, this drive towards experience, towards awareness.
Precisely. It gives the whole cosmic process a direction, an inner purpose, which is a very different picture than, say, some interpretations of evolution that focus purely on mechanisms.
Like Richard Dawkins' selfish gene idea. Though, as the source notes, even that language of selfishness has caveats.
Right. Dawkins provides powerful tools for understanding how selection works, the genes I view as a useful perspective. But it's largely focused on the mechanics, the unguided process of replication and survival. Our source mentions the misgivings about applying intentional language like selfish to genes anyway.
So Dawkins describes the how, but Teilhard is adding a why, or maybe a where to.
Exactly. Teilhard sees a direction, a trajectory. Evolution isn't just aimlessly wandering, it's heading somewhere towards greater complexity, yes, but intrinsically towards greater consciousness. It's not just about propagating genes, it's about intensifying the within.
Okay, so if this trend holds, what happens when you get to humans? With our level of complexity, our brains, our self-awareness.
That marks another major leap. Teilhard argues that human emergence creates something entirely new, the noosphere.
The noosphere, the thinking layer.
Yes. The source mentions how we divide our world into different realities: natural, artificial, moral, legal. This is human reflection at work. We don't just live, we think about living, we create abstract systems, shared knowledge, culture. This collective mental energy forms a distinct layer around the planet, overlaying the biosphere.
The sphere of thought, basically.
Exactly. It's the direct result of the complexity consciousness law reaching the level of reflective thought in humans. We can think, communicate complex ideas, build knowledge over generations. This creates a new evolutionary arena, the realm of mind.
I can almost picture that, especially today with the internet. Global communication. It feels like that noosphere is intensifying, connecting in ways Teilhard could only dream of.
Absolutely. Modern technology is accelerating the formation and interconnection of the noosphere at an incredible rate. Global science, instant communication, shared cultural trends, it's all part of this planetary interiorization, the universe becoming more consciously aware of itself through humanity.
But hang on, it doesn't always feel like harmonious convergence, does it? We see so much division, conflict, nationalism. How did Teilhard account for that friction within the noosphere?
He was very aware of it. He talks about the complex ramifications of nations and races. He didn't see these tensions as proof against convergence, but as sort of growing pains, like friction in a complex machine finding its alignment.
So the conflicts are part of the process. Stages of differentiation before a higher unity.
That was his view. These social, cultural, even political structures and their conflicts are still part of the overall cosmic trend towards complexity and consciousness. They're more immaterial forms of the same evolutionary push seen in biology. The struggles, the seeming disunity, are part of the dynamic process leading towards a deeper, more conscious integration.
Which leads us then to the ultimate goal of this whole process. The omega point.
The culmination, the absolute zenith of evolution in his model.
Okay, so what is the omega point? What does it represent?
It's the ultimate convergent point for the entire universe, the state towards which everything is evolving, where consciousness reaches its maximum possible intensity and unity. It's referenced throughout the phenomenon of man. It's absolutely central. It's the end game, so to speak.
Is it like everything merging into one big impersonal soup? Losing individuality?
No, quite the opposite, actually. That's a key point. Teilhard stressed that omega is super personal. It's a center of consciousness, but one that doesn't absorb or destroy individuality. Instead, it enhances it.
Enhances it? How?
By bringing individual consciousnesses into perfect union and relationship. He argues true personality is only fully realized through this ultimate communion. Think of an orchestra. Each instrument is distinct, but its full potential is realized only when playing in harmony with the whole. So at Omega, you become more yourself by being perfectly united with all others in the supreme center of love and awareness.
Wow. So unity, hyperpersonality. What else characterizes it?
It's also seen as irreversible. Once reached, this state of ultimate consciousness and union can't be undone. And it strongly resonates with concepts from other traditions, as you mentioned.
Right, like the all is one idea in Conversations with God, or that feeling of an ocean of love behind everything in the untethered soul. It seems to tap into a common mystical intuition.
It really does. That sense of ultimate unity and becoming, where God is everything and God becomes everything, aligns quite closely with the direction Teilhard describes.
But then comes the really audacious step. Teilhard identifies this omega point with Christ. How does he weave Christian theology so directly into this scientific evolutionary framework?
This is where his Jesuit background and scientific mind perform their most radical synthesis. For Teilhard, Christ isn't just the historical Jesus. He is the cosmic Christ, the actual engine and ultimate attractor of all evolution. He is the omega point, personalized, the alpha and the omega, pulling creation towards this final perfection.
The engine of evolution itself.
Yes. And again, this isn't entirely without precedent in mystical thought. The Philokalia, that collection of Eastern Christian writings, talks about Christ always wanting to be born in a mystical way, becoming incarnate in those who attain salvation. It suggests Christ as an ongoing active principle.
And C.S. Lewis, mentioned him earlier.
Lewis, in Mere Christianity, talks about God guiding us towards absolute perfection. And his analogy of the wheel spokes perfectly fitted to the hub and rim, finding their right relationship to each other, that beautifully captures the kind of achieved unity and perfected individuality Teilhard envisions at Omega, centered on Christ.
So it's a radical reinterpretation of both evolution and Christology, giving evolution a spiritual goal and Christ a cosmic scope.
Precisely. It's a bold attempt to bridge science and faith, though, as we noted, it wasn't without controversy. His ideas sometimes bordered on what critics called pantheism, seeing God as the universe, though he likely saw it more as panentheism, God in all things but also transcending them. Those index references highlight the theological discussions it sparked.
Which loops us back to that core question. Can science and mysticism really be reconciled? Teilhard offers one path, but what about the historical tensions and other viewpoints?
Well, the tension is undeniable, but it's often rooted in interpretation, as we saw with Darwin versus Dawkins. Darwin himself didn't see a conflict with orthodox Christian belief.
Right, he saw his work describing the how, not denying a who or why.
Exactly. Whereas someone like Dawkins, according to the source, can transmute a provisional scientific theory into a totalizing ideological worldview of atheism. It shows that the science itself doesn't necessarily mandate a specific metaphysical conclusion. There's interpretative space.
Which is the space Teilhard operates in.
Precisely. And it's interesting to look at the nature of mystical experience itself here. William James had some key insights in the varieties of religious experience.
What did James say about these experiences?
He observed that the core mystical feeling, that sense of enlargement, union, and emancipation, doesn't really have specific intellectual content on its own. It's like a raw experience of unity. And because it's raw, it's capable of forming matrimonial alliances with all sorts of different philosophies and theologies. The experience can be interpreted through a Christian lens, a Buddhist lens, a scientific lens, or Teilhard's evolutionary lens.
So the core feeling of unity is adaptable. It can fit different frameworks.
That seems to be James's point, and it helps explain how Teilhard could integrate these profound states into his system. The experience itself isn't necessarily Teilhardian, but it can be understood through his framework.
Let's explore that variety a bit. How is this state of union or heightened consciousness actually described across different traditions? You mentioned Christian mystics.
Right, like the cloud of unknowing, urging focus on the naked being of him beyond concepts, or Catholic classics talking about spiritual union or spiritual marriage, a state where the soul transcends ordinary categories like male-female, achieving a kind of divine intimacy.
And in Eastern thought.
In the Yoga Sutras, the goal is kaivalyam, achieving the power of pure consciousness, separate from the fluctuations of the mind, a cessation of all material existence. In Hesse's Siddhartha, the character experiences this profound sense of order and interconnectedness, seeing divinity in the ordinary.
Even secular approaches seem to touch on this, like mindfulness or tollity.
Yeah, modern approaches often describe similar states. Waking Up mentions brain changes associated with mindfulness, suggesting tangible effects. The Power of Now talks about accessing pure consciousness, the silent awareness beneath the ego. Across the board, despite different language and context, there's this recurring theme of unity, transcendence, and a deeper reality.
It's a striking convergence of experience. So connecting this back to Teilhard, his big move was to provide an evolutionary context for all these glimpses of unity.
Exactly. That's his genius, or at least his unique contribution. He doesn't dismiss these experiences. He proposes a scientific narrative that frames them as natural phenomena specifically, as anticipations of the omega point.
So mystics aren't escaping reality. They're getting a sneak peek at evolution's future.
That's the idea. They are tapping into that convergent future, experiencing brief moments of the unity and consciousness the universe is striving towards. It makes mysticism not irrational, but perhaps pre-rational or maybe super-rational, pointing towards a future state. It gives it a place within the scientific story of the cosmos.
Okay, bringing this all home then. If we accept Teilhard's grand vision, even hypothetically, what are the implications for us, for you, listening, in daily life? Does this change our sense of purpose?
Immensely, I think. If the soul has come to the body for the purpose of evolution, as Conversations with God puts it, and you are evolving, you are becoming, then your personal growth isn't just personal, it's part of this vast cosmic project.
Our inner work contributes to the universe's evolution.
That's the implication. Every effort to expand your consciousness, to overcome limitations, as Toll discusses in A New Earth, growing in consciousness by going beyond limitation feeds into this larger trajectory. It makes our choices, our efforts towards love, understanding, and unity cosmically significant.
And it requires effort, right? It's not automatic. You mentioned the courage to create.
Yes, that source notes that insight and realization aren't random. They require our own commitment. So Teilhard's vision isn't passive. It implies that our conscious participation, our striving, is actually essential for moving towards Omega. We are active agents in this evolutionary process.
In today's world, often described as a secular age, feeling fragmented, maybe cynical, how does a grand narrative like Teilhard's help? Does it offer a way to, as our secular age might put it, re-narrate human existence in an integrated way?
I think it offers a powerful potential framework for that. By refusing to separate science and spirit, it counters that fragmentation. It suggests they're two aspects of one reality unfolding together.
So it gives meaning back to the scientific picture.
It attempts to, yes. It encourages looking for that within everywhere, seeing direction and purpose in the cosmos, and crucially recognizing our own active role in evolving towards that ultimate unity, that omega point, that cosmic Christ. It invites engagement, wonder, and a sense of profound participation rather than detachment.
It's certainly a powerful, integrated vision.
Yeah.
We've journeyed through Teilhard de Chardin's core ideas, cosmic evolution driven by complexity consciousness, the rise of the noosphere, and the convergence onto a hyper-personal omega point identified with Christ, a true synthesis attempt.
And it leaves us, and you, our listener, with a significant question to mull over. If the universe truly is evolving towards this ultimate point of consciousness, unity, and love, a cosmic Christ, what does that really mean for the inherent purpose of everything? And perhaps more personally, what does it mean for your role, your unique participation in this incredible phenomenon?
How might really internalizing that idea, that there's a deep, purposeful direction to existence, and you're part of it, change how you see your own life, your connections, your challenges, something profound to reflect on. We hope this deep dive gave you plenty to think about.